Greetings all, welcome to Everything Borrowed, where we sit down to share stories and have conversations with entrepreneurs to artists and everyone in between. Today's episode is powered by Blake's Hard Cider, 100% fresh pressed, all natural and gluten-free, straight from our family's 75-year-old farm in Southeast Michigan. Find us in your local grocer or have Blake's direct ship to your home by visiting blakestore.com. Use promo code Everything Borrowed to receive 10% off your first order. Must be 21 years of age. Please enjoy mindfully. What's up, y'all? Today's episode goes up in smoke as we sit down with Randy Buckman, CEO of Emerald Growth Partners, the company that brings you the premium cannabis brand Pleasantrees. As entrepreneurs rush to take advantage of Michigan's cannabis industry, Randy is years ahead and positioning himself as a leader in the space. Enjoy as we hear how Randy bootstrapped it from his dad's basement to becoming the king of cannabis in Michigan. Well, cheers, man. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. How the fuck do you start a weed company? What's your story? Because when I met you through Gino, obviously, he kind of told me a little bit about you and like this guy who knows how to do it all himself and basically configured it from the ground up. He's like, I've never met anyone like it. I'm like, okay, I've met a few people in the industry. And when I went to your facility, it's like a goddamn pharmacy. I feel like you could be making vaccines in there. It's as professional as I've ever been into any operation. You know, we're out here in a farm and you were in mud boots. So obviously I'm a little out of my comfort zone, but I mean, it's like high tech, big tech, everything. And, how'd you learn that? What's your story?
Humble roots. Way back, it didn't start there. It started in a basement with 4 lights in 2009, 2010. And the first thing is I do know how to do most of it, if not all of it, because I was forced to over the years. But now, I mean, we have an army. It's far from just me out on my own here. I mean, I haven't even touched a plant in years. It feels like.
Right.
So just started small, 4 lights in my dad's basement. Fortunately, he let me do that for a little while until he decided
Thanks, Dad.
Time to move out, which I did. And then I went to commercial. My first commercial facility was in 2013, which was pretty progressive at that time. A lot of people thought I was crazy. I actually talked to the local tactical or narcotics team and showed them, this is what I'm looking at doing. Is it legal? Are you guys okay with it?
But I have to imagine in the early days, you were like, this is like uncharted territory. It's legal, but it's not. The government says it's good, but some governments are like not fully in. I mean, it's for a long time. I mean, when in our life has there been an industry that was illegal that is just now completely legal or working towards being completely legal? I mean, there isn't industries like that have ever happened. So
alcohol? Prohibition?
Yeah, for like a year though, and that was just like giving the industry to crooks because it still was going on. It was part of culture. It didn't go away, but it just seems in our lifetime, and I think that's why so many people are big on, the marijuana industry at large, is because you're opening up a whole new market. I don't know, is it a $5 billion market, a $1 billion market? I don't even know.
I mean, Michigan, they're saying a $3 billion market.
In just alone. Michigan?
Yeah, just Michigan. You want to take that national, take your finger and go like this.
Right.
I mean, there's so many states that don't even have medical at this point. It's really hard to put a pinpoint on that. But it's definitely a huge growth industry. Where the ceiling's at, I think we're years away from seeing it.
And you think that there's just going to be more and more? You think it ever becomes like booze? You think it becomes that accepted as a recreational use? So you think it always kind of has a little bit more of a shield from kind of common culture just because of the nature of it?
Stigma?
The stigma? And
I do think it goes to like a CPG or like booze for sure. It'll be normalized. It's already tremendously more accepted now just because it is legal. A lot of people were standoffish towards cannabis because it was illegal, and they just, they run straight lives, and that's what it is. And if it's illegal, they don't want to hear about it.
Sure.
And then once it's legal, that argument's gone, so they're more acceptable to it. Just conversations I have with, my parents' friends and people of that generation, they're a lot more curious now than before. They thought I was some drug dealer selling dime bags on a corner. Now they're like, hey, so what's going on with this? How does this work? Et cetera. They're very, very kind of curious now.
Yeah, well, it's a great point. I think in the last year, I've had at family parties, all my aunts and uncles, so many of them are like, what's the right thing to get if I want to sleep better or for pain? And I'm like, I don't know, just like...
You got to try them.
You got to try them, man.
See what works for you.
Exactly. But you definitely see a generation, kind of, coming out of out of the dark with it a little bit and being more comfortable talking about it. And that has to be good for, for cannabis. And the thing I've noticed in its relation to the alcohol industry, you're seeing huge mergers, mega mergers of the alcohol and kind of cannabis worlds, coming together. You saw it with Sweetwater recently being bought out. And so you're seeing, I don't know if they're going after the same consumer. It is the same consumer. They're betting that it'll, it's people that are looking to have fun and let loose. It's kind of the same thing. So it's interesting some of the parallels you see. And I feel like what you guys do at Pleasantrees is you really took like the craft brand approach. You feel very approachable. You feel very, you have a personality. It doesn't feel pharmaceutical. It feels like you can touch it, feel it, know the people. And that's the sense I get from the brand. And you guys have done a hell of a job with that. And many people tell me that. It's not just because I know you.
My competition tells me that.
Yeah, right?
So I'd like to take credit for that. I can't. I'm not.
Great fucking name, though, by the way.
That's a good story to it. I wasn't married to it at the beginning, but it grew on me, and now I love it.
I love it.
Simply, we paid a marketing strategist to work with brand development and different names, and that was the first name that she had done the same exercise for a Canadian company. She's actually from Toronto, and they chose a different name, and instead of going with Pleasantrees. And when we talked to her, she said, well, I have my favorite one that they didn't pick. Sign this check and engage me, and I'll tell you what it is. So we did so. And then she gave us the name, Pleasantrees, and I was like, well, I'm not sold on it. Let's do an exercise. Give us 10, 20 more, and then let's work through those and see if anything else really stands out. And, I mean, the rest of the list was just horrendous. It was like Best Buds or King Buds or something. It was like, okay, all right, Pleasantrees is the best. Like,
we'll take it.
Yeah, we'll stick with that. And so we did that, and then we went through some branding exercises and chose to go a different path for creative. So we got the name from her, and then we went a different path for creative. And then we pivoted again and brought creative in-house now.
We've went through like so many iterations of outsourcing creative, bringing it in, and I think when you're growing a brand like you are, or I think that we are at Blake's, it makes a lot of sense to bring it in-house because you really need that brand to speak to the spirit of the company, which I think people buy into. I know people who love Pleasantrees as a brand already, and they feel like it's very Michigan. They feel like it's very, and you need, it's hard to get that from an agency out in New York or Chicago. So, we kind of leaned into the marketing as far as in-house, working hard to kind of create our own story, tell our own story, and be more authentic with it, have it not feel so packaged and, kind of.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had the same experience talking to bigger firms. Seems like you're always chasing them, asking them, hey, did you do that I asked for last week? And you're just not a top priority.
Right.
And at the speed that, things move in the cannabis industry is I need it now. I need it yesterday.
Right.
I didn't know I needed it, but I need it now.
Right.
And then so we started interviewing different individuals, and this one guy's resume came across and some of his work. He had a pretty substantial resume, and I brought him in for an interview, and I just knew he's like, I snowmobile, I hunt, and I was like,
yeah, I like this guy.
This is the guy.
Yeah.
I need this guy here right now. Because a lot of creative I don't get along with. And, historically and typically in...
Artist, man.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm not an artist. I'm a very binary person. I like to make concise decisions and move on.
Right.
The creative process, I'm not good at it.
Yeah.
I know what I'm good at. But he came in, and he's really owning that position. I'm just thrilled that we have him. We just launched our value brand, Good Enough. And
I love that.
That was his
it's good
first,
enough, right? And
it's the most brilliant thing. It was so just knowing where it came from. Just sitting in the boardroom, like, all right, we need a value brand, and it's just a couple of people sitting around just throwing names out, writing them down, and then we'll run them through trademark to see what we can actually have.
Can't believe that wasn't taken. That's fucking
well,
great.
Good enough.
Yeah,
was taken, or it wasn't trademarkable. It was too
generic.
Yeah. So we went with the good, GUD, with the I don't know what the little German things are above the U. Good enough. And
so you learned. See, I was bootstrapping it, and I didn't want to pay the legal fee for trademark, so I tried doing it myself. Got a cease and assist on 2 different products. One from the Coppola family wineries, the guy who made the Godfather movies. Francis. And I'm like, yeah, we're just going to back away from this one real fast. Yeah, so I feel like I've made just about every mistake as it relates to that. But, you guys have scaled very quick, it seems. At least, it's probably been a long time coming, but from the outside, it seems like it was, nothing, and then you're here. And I know there's a lot of work in the background.
Overnight success, right?
Yeah, right. Just like everything.
Just happened, It
Yeah.
wasn't a decade of working.
Right, but it seems like it's getting to a point now, at least from where it seems like it's kind of evolving to that next level. Are you able to keep up? What kind of situation are you in as a founder, where at least in my experience, you kind of certain parts of your business start to outgrow your core competencies. And, that's where I found myself. I'm like, holy shit, I don't know how to fucking do that.
I've been there for about a year. I'm a quick learn on most things, and I know enough about
enough to be dangerous.
Enough about different professions and professional positions to be dangerous, but I can't just be dangerous. I need the guy,
right,
or the girl, or the person inside of these different seats. We brought legal in house. We have 4 attorneys in house now. Sword and shield. Usually
4 attorneys in house.
4 attorneys.
Feels gangster, dude. That's
one
awesome.
Compliance, one that's more finance now, director of finance, but is also an attorney, and then two on the legal department.
Fuck, I need some lawyers.
I mean, I don't get cease and desist from Francis Cavola.
Well, that's why I'm here, dude. I'm trying to learn
send
some
them out.
shit. I sounds like I need to get a lawyer.
Yeah. I mean, so many contracts that we're dealing with, purchase agreements, et cetera. I mean,
you're also in such a legally muddy, industry at the moment still. I'm sure there's, figuring out what's right, what's wrong, enforcement's probably still figuring out there. It's all new to everyone. So it's not like there's kind of some tried and true established. I'm sure there's a lot of learning, and you're probably helping, at least from my experience within, the alcohol world, as you're working through that, you start to help craft new rules and legislation that works better for the system and works better for enforcement, works better for the government.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a very open conversation, communication line with the regulator. We actually formed the Michigan Cannabis Manufacturers Association. It's currently 11 companies. I think we're going to look at bringing on or adding additional companies to our board. And we have monthly meetings with the regulator and talking about different things, talking about legislation, rules, and just having input when somebody's drafting a rule that doesn't have experience in the industry. It makes sense when they write it down on paper, but then from an operator's perspective and the feasibility of it, it's not really there. So we have to explain it. And they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Or they don't think it makes sense. And then, we got to push and pull, and that's just, creating something new.
Right. When you walk in, for people who, have never been to one of your stores or a dispensary, I believe you call them bud tenders, or is that an industry term? Do you guys call them that?
That's an industry term. I think we use them as guides. Is that correct, Brian? Sales guides.
Sales guides. I like that. What is the experience like for if my dad who's going to listen to this going in? You go in, and is it just all the different strains? Does it go on kind of what you're looking for as far as mood, upper, down, sativa, indica? What I know you guys, because when you gave me the tour of your facility, you're like, these are the genetics that we have proprietary. I'm like, oh, that's badass. And you're like, yeah, we can grow new genetics or old genetics through this. You have this crazy ass machine that I was looking at. I'm like, this is like pharmaceutical. This is high tech shit. And but when you go into the store, what's the experience? You can't smoke in the stores, right? You can't sample. So you got to have a real guide who kind of knows how to talk you through.
Yeah, I'd have to chase you out of there. Be like, I haven't tried that one yet.
Yeah, right.
What's that one taste like?
Well, because here, when you're sampling booze, everyone's like, yeah, I want to sample. Next thing you know, they're like, 10 samples deep. You're like, no.
Yeah, no. Well, it really depends. I think when they first, right now we're doing curbside with the COVID, so you don't get the that interaction inside of the store.
Right.
But when we did have our store open, and we will have our store open eventually soon here, it's really good. The guide's going to approach the client as they come in, and then probably ask them, what are you looking for? What's your experience? And it really depends what they say then. If they walk in and say, I've never smoked before or used cannabis in my life, well, then they're probably going to go through, everything, explain different products, different delivery methods, and then try to get feedback as they have those conversations and see where it goes.
What's your preferred delivery method? I'm sure you've sampled some of your product.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure if I despise a delivery method.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to smoke joints. I like to smoke rosin in a pen. I'll dab rosin once in a while, not too often. I mean, that usually sends me to the moon. I try not to go to the moon.
Yeah, right. I talked to a dog at a party once after doing that. I was like, fuck.
Yeah, I try to be very, I stay very busy. So usually that's, late at night or whatever with the wife.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I have like this weird thing on like when like my wife's getting on me to like clean the garage or something, I'll like take like a joint, I'll take like 2 hits and I'll just put on some music, get in the zone, I'll fucking clean the shit out of the garage. It's like the only way I can clean around the house. Yeah. So my wife appreciates you guys very much helping me do that.
Yeah, we'll have to like carve out a little into our delivery section just so it'll jut up to 30, 35 here?
Yeah, basically 35.
Or just drop a circle on it.
That's the problem being out in the boonies, dude. There's no Grubhub. There's no.
I know. I live in the woods, man.
Yeah.
On the east side, no Uber, no Grubhub.
See, but it's kind of nice also at the same time when you can go out your back door and go hunting. We talked about, wanting to go hunting. I'm trying to plan, kind of a team. Gino and I were talking, and we'll talk afterwards. We're trying to plan like an out west hunting trip. I don't know. Have you done any of those?
South Dakota is the first I've gone west.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Did pheasant, deer out there.
I did pheasant. Did you get anything?
Yeah, obviously. I don't miss.
Well, I'm not that good of a shot. I'm fucking.
You're an honest man.
Yeah, right.
You talk to this guy over here. He says he's a great shot, and you watch him miss all day.
Yeah, right.
Or usually I just shoot him and I say, "Oh, good shot."
Yeah, right.
You're on your limit.
Yeah, you nailed it, man. Good job.
Yep.
When you talk about cannabis as a national industry, you're starting to see all of the big players get into it from like a very national perspective. I'm looking at like Pepsi, you're looking at Coca-Cola, you're looking at people that are really taking looks at the industry aggressively. Is there a chance that they come in and it's a race to the bottom a little bit, and they really with their supply chain and distribution? But from my vantage point, it seems that the cannabis industry has protected craft companies and smaller growers to be able to get into the game by kind of keeping it state regulated and not being able to be kind of a national thing. So it's particular to a state. And as it relates to Pleasantrees, do you guys have visions outside of just becoming a staple Michigan brand? Where's your head at with growth and expansion? And
yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right about different silos of the states right now, and that's certainly a good petri dish to build a strong company within the state without having huge companies from different industries or private equity moving in too heavy. They are moving in now, and yes, they are absolutely on the sidelines waiting to move in as soon as safe banking or the MORE Act or States Act to go through here. MORE Act and States Act will allow federal legalization and tax reform. The difference is with the States Act, it's actually not technically federally legal there under the States Act. It'll just recognize the states. So if you're operating under a state law and you're legal there, then they'll let you operate there, but they will open up banks. And I believe it also has it changes the tax, so we're not having to pay 280E. Whereas the MORE Act does have federal legalization, and which will probably come with a federal tax on top of that, which I'm not sure how I feel about that yet. I mean, the biggest concern for the regulated industry is being able to compete with the illicit market. And if you start laying on all these hindrances and encumbrances and taxes,
there'll still be a black market.
Well, yeah. If I'm twice the price for a product than the illicit market, I mean, some people will go to the regulated market getting tested safe product or safe product, but there's a lot of people. They got $20, they got $20, and like they're looking for the most value they can get, and that's what it is. So trying to keep making sure both markets are competitive, and that's the best way to drive out the illicit market, which it'll never.
Government can be greedy; they just can't be fucking hogs. They need to get theirs, but they can't. Because the thing that you get with facilities like yours, like I know when I get a Pleasantree pre-rolled or a pen, I walk through your facility, I'm like, I know that there's nothing in here that shouldn't be in here. It's good for me. I always kind of associate weed smoking with a healthier part of myself. I self-reflect. I'm productive, I'm organized, creative. It kind of opens a part of me. So I kind of look at it as a healthy, positive thing for me and how I use it.
Good.
Which is, and it's been a big part of some of my creative, how I think creatively and how I think about business. And, I feel like I have a responsible relationship with it, but I always, I'll do it before I work out sometimes. I look at it as a healthy part of my life. So to know where it comes from, to know that it's tested, to know that there's not bullshit chemicals in there that I'm putting in my lungs, that makes me feel a lot better about that. But, I think when you're looking at, other products in the black market or things of that nature, you just don't know what's in it. And that's what you pay. That's the premium you pay. And I'm willing to pay all day, honestly.
Me and you share the same vision there, and that's important to us. That doesn't mean that there's a certain, percent of the market, probably a high one, that doesn't care as much, and they're buying from the guy down the street that grows it in his basement or backyard, or gets it from somewhere else forever, and why would they change?
Right.
But after seeing what can be in these products and what other people use, I mean, I somebody had given my wife a vapor pen or vape pen. My wife was like, "Oh, this tastes good," and I grabbed it. I was like, "Don't smoke that."
Yeah, right.
Like, where'd you get it? And she told me, and I was like, "This is terrible. It's probably terrible, loaded with pesticides, heavy metals, etc." And she's like, "No, why would they give it to me?" And I was like, "Listen, I'm gonna test it." So I sent it to the testing lab, and it came back atrocious.
That's terrifying, right?
1,000 times the pesticide limits. It was like, told you.
Right.
You don't know what you're getting. That's very important to me. I think education and to the customers and cannabis users of like what you could potentially be getting. I mean, to use pesticides, herbicides, fungicides on plants makes it easier to grow because you're not going to get the PM or the bugs, etc. Or you spend the money on the HVAC systems and environmental controls so you don't get those issues.
Right.
Or you just spray the stuff on it and it kills them. So if you're not going to do this,
and spend the
money,
front end,
and you don't have to because you're not running in a tested market, a regulated market, then that's what they're going to do.
Right. So. Right. When people get into the discussion about weed as medicine, I'm not cannabis as medicine. There's been big debates for a long time, and I think most recently, I don't know, was it the WHO or one of the big government agencies came out and basically said, we look at it as, one of the governing bodies said, we look at it as
I think it was WHO. Yeah,
I think it was the WHO, and they said, it is medicine. And, from your experience probably being close, whether it's through caretakers, whether it's through clients, do you see people coming in, specifically for the medical uses of cannabis?
Absolutely.
What do those seem to be? I know you're not a doctor, and I know we're not trying to, but from your experience watching people come in, is there a big portion of the cannabis consumers that look at it from that health perspective, or look at it from
absolutely.
the benefits?
Pain relief is probably one of the top. It's people that are trying to stay away from opioids, etc.
Right.
And will use cannabis. Anxiety, sleep. Those are probably some of the major things. Other than that, I think everybody has their own reasons.
Right.
Everybody's got a reason.
Well, yeah. I mean, I got Darren McCarty's coming on here tomorrow. Talk about his new show that he's got going on, and he's like a huge advocate that it helped him get off the booze. Mm-hmm. It was a safer, better alternative than the booze, and he readily communicates that. So
good.
I was trying to figure out how you take this model and you could think about scaling it across the country, 50 states, but when it's in each state, so you have to actually pop up. You can't scale your operations in Michigan and supply Ohio or whatever it'd be. It has to be completely separate. But is it working towards that? Is that a future state in the industry, do you think?
I hope not. Potentially, yeah, that would be the MORE Act where you'd be able to ship interstate.
Okay.
Right now, we made our first expansion to Massachusetts. We have 2 retail stores that are under construction. Should be open here end of Q1, hopefully. And then we have a 110,000 square foot building that we closed on October 15th. We're currently working through designs. It's going to be a substantial build. We're looking $30 to $40 million to put together this facility and make it really a flagship on the East Coast. But looking at moving into different.
You say 30 to 40 million?
Yeah, for the build out of the grow. And then also it'll have a processor inside of it as well. Oh. Yep. But then when we go into different states, I think controlling your vertical supply chain is very important. That's how if we're going to take our brand to a state, being able to control the production of that product that we're putting into our brand is very important, versus some companies will just take brands and run it across the state and do licensing deals with different operators in different states. And that's where you lose the consistency and the customer trust.
I feel like you guys are, and I might be speaking out of term because I don't know shit about I'm learning. That's part of the show, trying to figure out the industry. Yeah. But it seems like you guys are, you have stores here, but you're like a household name. You're a brand that people that are in all dispensaries, like any dispensary wants the Pleasantrees brand.
I think we're probably in 65, 70 stores right now. Currently, I'd love to be on every single shelf in Michigan.
Right.
I'd love to be inside every single house in Michigan.
Right.
That uses cannabis.
Yeah.
But maybe someday they all will. Brand equity is very important to us. I think that's what's going to separate the winners and the losers as we see market compression over the next year or two.
Right.
If people come to a store to buy Pleasantrees product, they're going to have velocity on our product. The person that owns the retail, and they're going to always get more. And then even if there's a lower priced product out there, but it sits on their shelf for a month or 2 or 3, yeah, okay, you have a higher margin on that product, but it's going to sit there until it gets stale. Whereas if you buy our product and carry our product and we drive customers there because you have it, you're going to get the velocity and they're going to make more turnovers on that product.
Right.
So a smaller margin for them because we have a higher price, but they're going to get, the volume.
Have you been able to, continue that kind of, you're not a value, that's not a value brand at all. You're a premium brand or you're up there with your brand, and, will you be able to maintain that position? Because it seems that you're doing all the things on the back end that would warrant that, the testing, the facilities, the way in which you grow, the genetics that you're keeping in your product. So it seems like you're doing everything to maintain that. Is that really the long-term goal for Pleasantrees, to be that premium offering?
Absolutely. I want to keep Pleasantrees as a top shelf brand as we pull across the country. We do have the sub-brand Good Enough, which I think is pretty slick.
Yeah.
I love that name. So that's a great tool to have in our arsenal. So if we do have price fluctuation or wholesale price fluctuation, we can play with that Good Enough and run different product through there, and then still protect the Pleasantrees brand. Because once you start bringing down your price on a brand, it's really, really hard to go up. So being able to keep that stable at the top and then fluctuate here with the Good Enough, that's the game.
That's the ticket.
Yep.
That's the ticket.
At least we think it is.
Yeah, right. When you look at your goal, you've been in this, 10 years? What did you say? You started in 12?
10, 11 years. I mean, depends, been growing weed for 11 years.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And, when you look at that, at least I look at my deal, I never really had an end state. It was just kind of a journey and just kind of a progression. But you're probably at the point now where the brand's big enough, you've built enough equity where you can start to maybe map out where you hope to take the company in the future or what you want your end state to be. Do you see yourself as a cannabis for life guy? Do you have other business ambitions? Is it continuing to expand the Pleasantrees brand into, I don't know, Good Enough sounds like a cool ass shirt. I'd buy that shirt. I mean, you working on that, Brian?
We got some booty shorts. I'll get you a pair.
Oh, perfect. I love it. My wife will love it. Surprise.
My wife does love it.
But what do you think, or are you just focused on handling the growth that you have in front of you right now?
That's a very, very heavy question. And the reality is in cannabis, 6 months is, years. A year is a decade.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much, it's moving so quickly. And some companies are building to sell, and the management, that's where their head's at. I'm not saying I'm not. I mean, we're always open to an offer. If somebody makes me a ridiculous offer, let's have a conversation. Or even a fair offer. There's definitely a conversation. I know what I think the company's worth at this point. The problem is we have so much value in front of us in the next 6, 12, 18 months, different projects, the one in Massachusetts turning in on.
Yep.
Is somebody going to give us the valuation on that project now? No, they're not. Are we scared to execute and turn that on and realize that valuation? No, we're not. That's what we do. Mm-hmm. So there's always that push and a pull of where your value actually is. Somebody looking to acquire or buy is always going to push it down, and we're going to stand our ground and push it up. It's a lot easier to protect ourselves and stand our ground now that we have proof of concept. A year ago when they're all saying, "Oh, you can't stand your company up, you're going to fail," it's like, growing the product is the easy part. Getting here was the hard part. I'm not worried about from here and executing.
Yeah, right. And you're on the I don't know, the time frame, what I call, the period of extraordinary growth. So to get off the train right now is like selling yourself and all your efforts and your team's efforts a little short. That's, we're going through similar things with like triple digit growth right now and all of that. And it's crazy. It's really hard to keep up with. I'm working like 7 days a week, it feels.
Speaking to the choir.
Yeah, right. But it's kind of what you sign up for, and you're not complaining. You love it. Mm-hmm. But it just feels like getting off the ride now, you're still just climbing the top of, the Millennium Force or whatever the hell.
I think we've put together an extraordinary team, management team, just the right people in the right spots. You definitely need to scale. I mean, we've gone from a Q1 this year, 2020, I think we had less than 30 employees. Now we're at somewhere around 170. So, that's a substantial.
Dude, I walked into your facility on like a Wednesday night at like 6 or 7, and you got rooms of people, you know, breaking apart buds. It just reminded me of, I mean, it was insane. It reminded me of American Gangster, where they're all just naked, just sorting through shit. I'm like,
they had clothes on for the record.
They did have clothes but, you know, it was just insane. And everyone seemed happy to work there. Everyone seemed, you know, it felt vibrant. It felt like it was welcoming.
Culture, man, culture.
And I think that the more you can have a welcoming brand, you know, as you kind of look to build brand equity within in the cannabis space, you know, you're building something that's bringing more people under the tent, the umbrella of cannabis. You know, I mean, you're a brand that I can hand these pre-rolls to my dad and say, you know, you need a good night's sleep. Here you go, man. Enjoy.
I tried. My dad won't smoke one yet. My mom might, but my dad.
Really,
he's about to retire from GM.
There you
after
go.
He retires.
After that, that's also weird too. Like, so how does that work? You know, are you allowed, you know, now that it's legal, are you going to be able to, you know, you can't drug test for it? What does that work? Do you even know? Like for other companies?
We don't drug test for THC. We do reserve the right to drug test.
Right.
I can't say we've drug tested anybody yet.
Right.
But if you came in kind of like dozing off at whatnot at your desk or what you're doing or falling, I'd probably be a little concerned.
Yeah, right.
Pretty much tell, or you get a pretty good idea of anybody that's abusing a drug.
Yeah, right.
It's pretty apparent, especially when they're very busy. I'm not sure how insurance agencies or companies are handling it as far as heavy equipment operators, et cetera.
I was curious just how. I feel like there's still some of the workout on some of that stuff.
Yeah, the big three, if you're working on an assembly line or something, and you're working with heavy machinery and you get hurt, like, there's probably a concern there. I know if somebody makes a mistake on a piece of equipment, they have to go drug test immediately. Right. So I haven't heard of any changes there yet. Right. I should probably dig into that a little bit more. It just doesn't really affect me and my company right now. Right.
Doesn't. I was just curious for, like, you know, as it opens up and it becomes like more cultural, culturally accepted part of the zeitgeist. I'm sure there's going to be reform around that, and, you know, taken out of the general, you know.
Yeah, we don't let anybody use cannabis on property.
Like we don't let anyone drink at work, but like you know, you're not going to test. You're not going to test them that they had a drink at home, you know, which is how it kind of currently is. Yeah. So, anyways, there's a lot of progression there, but I also feel that, you know, I don't know if it was COVID and the lockdowns. I feel like there's a little bit of a metamorphosis happening there's a change kind of happening with consumers, with people. And I feel like this is just one of the things that are kind of helping ride that wave. I mean, can you imagine more people smoking weed? And believe me, weed's not for anyone. I know people can get, just like any drug, just like anything, it can go negative. Just like, you know, I'm in the booze business. You gotta be self-responsible.
Yeah, I think we've both done pretty well through the pandemic here.
Yeah, but we both have been able to kind of continue to grow our businesses. But can you believe what how will the world and the kind of thoughts change when you have more people being, you know, open to cannabis, you know, not vilifying it, becoming more creative. For me, it's like a self-reflective tool. Like, I really try to like do some inner work, because I'm like, damn, I was an asshole, you know, or like, damn, I reacted quickly. Like, whenever I do, and it's not like I'm hard on myself. It's more of like a self-reflective.
Shouldn't do this.
Maybe I need to work on this. I feel like I feel like it's pretty positive for me.
That's healthy.
And so I just wonder, and that's my experience. I just wonder if more people smoking weed, you know, we're going to have more thoughtful people. Maybe. I don't know.
Hopefully, I think you're going to have a lot more relaxed people for sure. I think how many people have you met that smoke a joint and get in a fight? They might fight a bag of chips, but you're not going to have like street fights.
Yeah, right.
Not like outside of a bar or anything. So I think that'll be different. I'd like to see people use that for, you know, not that I want to pull them away from the alcohol industry by any means. We can share.
There's enough for everyone, you know. When you talked about COVID a little bit, you know, every dispensary I've been to, it's just been packed. I've never seen one not busy right now. I'm assuming that you guys have experienced the same thing, and you've probably had to pivot with online ordering. Do you see a slowdown from what you thought, or to kind of maintain?
We saw a slight dip in the market going end of November into December, and it's an ebb and flow. Usually in cannabis throughout the seasons, summer always you can't find it. Winter there's too much and it's cheap and it's flooded. There's a lot of aspects there. I think political, economic uncertainty during that time period. People, obviously COVID, people are a little tighter. Coming around to the holidays and Christmas, you have people are spending money on gifts, and then you get to January, and guess what? People got to pay the credit cards.
Right.
So we expect an uptick here moving forward, and through the spring into the summer, and we expect it to be very heavy again in the summer. The one potential factor that could hurt that is there's a lot of cultivation coming online right now.
Like other people's facilities getting up and
yeah,
running?
yeah. There's so many people jumping into it now. I mean, I feel like everybody thinks it's easy because they see companies being successful and like, oh, this can be done. Well, sorry for making it look too easy.
Right.
Good luck.
Yeah.
We're halfway through the race and they're starting, come
Right.
in at this point. So
right. You can talk the talk, but like at the end of the day, you have to be about what it takes to do it. And some people can say they want to be in it and they see the opportunity.
You have to love it. You got to live it.
You got to love it. You got to live it. And some people just aren't going to be willing to do that. And most people in my experience, and when I look at our industry or that, it's like, okay, I could literally give you I could tell you everything to do. It's still hard as shit.
Yeah, they're going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. They're going to work all through Saturday and Sunday to get it done. Like, some people are just, you're either born with that or not, the hustle. You can't teach the hustle, man. And in order to have the hustle, you have to have the passion.
Yeah, and you got to have a understanding wife, is what I've realized.
I mean, my wife's good. She's kind of understanding.
Yeah.
Like, she's not happy about things, but it is.
Yeah, and I got blessed in that regard. But that was kind of our deal from the start. She knew, kind of met me when this thing was happening and we were doing it, and I was like,
yep.
Yeah, you're signing up. We're signing up for this. Are you cool? And she's cool. So
before we turned the cameras, I was talking to you about last night. We were there at the office till 11:30, and Brian was like, "Oh, you just got to tell your wife we're closing a deal. You got to close a deal." And it's like, dude, I've been telling my wife I'm closing a deal for 10 years.
Yeah, right.
There's always another deal.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly what I'm not. That's like a set off.
Yeah, right.
I had to close the deal.
Yeah. Wasn't like you had all this private equity that kind of helped you get started up and you gave away the company. You kind of built a lot of it yourself, and now, as you're looking to grow or looking to bring in investors and whatnot, but you didn't, some people have to go right off the bat and aren't willing to bootstrap it to get there.
Yeah, no, I did some friends and family at the beginning. When I say the beginning, moving into the MMFLA and into RAC, so when I needed substantial capital through the caregiver and in my first commercial facilities, those were self-funded. Fill up the safe, dump it out, fill it up again, and just continue to expand, and that was the game. And then, so when I moved into the MMFLA, well, now it's all bank money. And you need serious capital. I mean, $500,000 per Class C in capitalization. That's, you need millions of dollars. So that I did a friends and family round. Then we've done a Series A, then a Series A round 2. And our valuation's moving up, and we've justified the valuation because we've executed every single time. Now, the next jump we're looking at here, we're talking to serious players, hedge funds, huge family offices across the country, private equity, and seeing the conversations I'm having today or this week or last week versus a year ago or 2 years ago. 2 years ago, as I was getting laughed out of a room. Now, the magnitude of the capital we're talking to, they're very interested. Everybody's ready to get in.
Yeah.
And they're looking at companies that
man.
have done it. Like we don't have a pro forma. Hey, this is my dream. This is what I'm gonna do. No, hey, this is what we're doing. Look at here. Here's a balance sheet. We're making money, and we're gonna scale it, and we're gonna continue to do it over here and here and here. And that's a much easier sale.
Right, right. That's an exciting time for you. Man.
And to answer the question, when I was raising money, the most important thing to me was, first of all, maintaining control of the company.
Right.
And the reason for that was a lot of the core employees that really helped me launch this and the backbone of our production team are friends and family of mine, people that have worked with me for a decade, some less, some more. And being able to protect them. So if somebody does slide a ridiculous offer onto the desk that I have to take responsibly to my investors, it'd be irresponsible for me not to take something that's absurd. I don't have to factor in, are these employees that are my friends and family going to be left out high to dry?
Right. You have a little bit more control of the ship.
Yeah, so I control.
And where you take it.
And I also carved off 10% of the company for employee incentives. So there's a lot of the core that has been with me for that time period does have has a little stake.
That's awesome.
And so they feel like they're working and building. The better we do, the more they come to the table. the more they grow with us.
That's awesome.
So.
That's awesome. And you said you started a year ago. You had 30 employees.
Yeah, I mean probably less, to be honest.
And you're looking at what, 170? What'd you say?
160, 170. How many employees are we at now? 160. Yeah, 160. Yeah, and we got to hire another 60 people in the next month, 2 months. Yeah.
And then, now, is that for production purposes or storefronts being opened up, or all the above?
The 2 next stores we have are in Massachusetts. We have Amherst, Massachusetts opening up as soon as Brian can finish that project, and then East Hampton also, Brian.
Get on it, Brian.
Yeah, and then so each store is probably 25 to 30 employees we have to onboard to make them successful. So that'll be another 50 to 60 people. And then we have a couple imminent stores in Michigan that are going to go into construction here. So we could be at 300-400 employees in another year.
That's insane. That's a lot of employees.
It is, yeah. So
when
somebody's always having a bad day.
Yeah, right.
I feel bad for HR. She's great though.
I know it's like the hardest and most important job in the company.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing too. A lot of we talked about culture shifting and businesses shifting. You want employees that are invested, and to the degree that you can, as a CEO, as a founder of a company, build a ride along opportunity for your key employees. I believe that to be so important because it just gets too big. It gets too hard to do. You want people that wake up every day thinking about it, like you think about it. I mean, you said you hadn't touched a plant in, maybe a couple of years, but it's because
I probably shouldn't have said that.
No,
take away my credibility.
Yeah, right. Well, I think everyone knows you know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
but the point is, but same here. I haven't brewed a batch of cider, made a beer. I haven't done it in 3 years.
Yeah.
But now the talent that we brought in is just so much, further advanced, so much further along than I.
No, I think I maintain the respect from, say, our head cultivators, people in the trenches working for us right now. They know I've done it,
right?
And I know a lot about it, as much if not more than them,
right?
So they respect me in that sense. And if I need to come in, well, they're going to be a little embarrassed that I had to step in and do it, or just step in and have input. But they're also not they're not scared to ask questions. And I mean, I do have a decent amount of knowledge. When I got into cannabis and growing, there was no real source of information besides books, forums online, and I dove into that and I immersed myself in it. So I do have a pretty substantial knowledge of cultivation,
right?
And I think it's important that the boss knows how to do the jobs, and you maintain that respect. Versus if I was some corporate dick, they're like, yeah, fuck him, he doesn't know what he's talking about,
Yeah.
I think it's different. You got to maintain the respect, work as hard, work with, be able to do that job, be able to show them when to do something wrong, be able to identify when they're doing something wrong.
I also think that shows through in your company's culture too, because you can't create that type of culture of being about the product, being about the process, being about all the inputs that go into it to make it, an equitable brand. You got to kind of live that, breathe that, be about that. And you can't do that from an office. You can't do that from a from a CEO seat in a,
it's got to be authentic,
on the 10th floor.
If it's not authentic, then people just don't buy it. They don't believe it.
Right.
You can see right through it.
Right. So when you look at cannabis and you look at the expansive cannabis, I know I was talking with James Regato from Mabel Gray. He was talking about, he's got weed companies.
Great restaurant.
Can't
get in there, but great restaurant.
Me neither. That's what I told him. I said, you got a great restaurant.
Well, I got to know.
Yeah, I can never get in, but maybe now I got him on speed dial now. So if we ever need
share that number,
yeah, I'll share it with you. But he was talking that he's getting reached out to by a lot of cannabis companies for recipes and to create cookbooks for marijuana. Do you see Pleasantrees? When you look at the different buckets of revenue, you obviously have wholesale, you have the pre-rolls, you have flower,
resin.
Yeah, where do you see the opportunities within just the cannabis space as this evolves and it gets beyond just flower? Yeah,
I'm not sure how I feel. I mean, gummies is definitely the highest selling edible right now. If you want to get into more, fancy baked goods, etc., I'm not really sure what the market segment is there. It's nothing. Sure. I don't want to dive into that yet. I think when we launch our commercial kitchen here, we can start getting into the edibles. We're going to start with the gummies, knowing that they sell very well, and try to hit that out of the park before I just throw out 30 SKUs and then I look like an idiot. And I'm like, oh, well, that didn't work. Shouldn't have bought that line,
Right.
Move slowly, move precisely, consciously. So the gummies, I think the state just came out and announced the beverages. So we're allowed to have infused beverages. It came out, it was about a week ago. They dropped the bulletin. So I think it's very exciting.
It's got a lot of people in the booze industry excited. I know that I got
that should have them scared.
Yeah, or scared. But I know that everyone, and we talked about this earlier, there's a melding of the customer at some point in that, as it relates to that product. That's a real conversion of both worlds.
Yeah.
And so I know people are giddy about it in the alcohol space as well.
Yeah. At our last executive team meeting, we were discussing what percent of the market do we see the beverage is taking? Is it 5? Is it 10? Is it 20? Is it 30? And why? And what beverages are going to be successful? Is it de-alcoholized beer, like a brew? Is it a wine? Is it Pleasantrees? Is it cider? Who knows?
Yeah, right.
And what's the best way to attack it? Do we run a couple different things and see what works, and then pile on to the ones that are running good, or do we go with one or two? I mean, there's no data on it.
Right.
I mean, you could look at other states and whatnot, but I could also say the companies or brands that are in other states that have done it haven't done it right or done it well.
Right.
So it's not a real good data point.
Are we? You're kind of part of I believe you're part of helping guide what happens here in Michigan. Are we looking at doing things differently than other states to not follow some of those same?
Yeah, Director Andrew Brisboe, is the head of the MRA. He always, he said plenty of times, and publicly, privately, he wants to design the framework for Michigan to mimic or hopefully be a model for when federal legalization happens. So we're ahead of the curve on that, and he's very conscious of that. Are we doing it right? Tell you in 2-3 years,
right?
But he is conscious, and we're trying to be at the forefront of it, which I'm appreciative of.
Yeah. When you look at other countries that are further along in the cannabis, exploration, I feel like we went from 0 to now 60 real quick. Mm-hmm. We went from nothing legal to probably leading, because now money's getting involved, and now government's getting involved, and now the industry is going to become huge. Are there other countries that are further along on the full legalization, or are we actually now at the forefront? I was wondering that the other day because I remember Canada was just like more progressive than us for a long time. We're neighbors. And
Canada made a lot of mistakes. It went federally legal, and then you had they were able to go public on the Canadian Stock Exchange, and these companies raised too much money and built these facilities that could supply half the world, and forgot that Canada doesn't have a lot of people.
Yeah.
They're like, we're going to export it. Okay, we need to be GMP to export. And serious failures. I was talking to an owner of a pretty substantial company in Canada a couple weeks ago, and he said it's actually cheaper for him to buy weed than to turn his greenhouse on. He's like, I just buy it cheaper than I can grow it for right now. I was like,
he's got like 200,000 square feet or something like that.
Probably like $1 million or something.
Yeah, that's insane.
He's a very serious player. But it was hearing him say that's like, hopefully that doesn't happen in Michigan. Oregon had oversupply issues. Michigan is an uncapped state, which is scary. We're going to definitely see compression.
Meaning they're not capping the licenses?
Yeah, it's a shell issue. So if you pass the criteria, they're going to give you the license. Does that mean it's a good idea? No. As a business owner, if I was looking at if I want to throw my my uncle or my grandpa's and my dad's life savings or my personal life savings into a business, I'm going to want to have a pretty good market study. And if I'm not coming into Michigan, right, if I think I'm going to want to be a dominant player and I'm not coming in with, 50 million plus, like, save your money, go somewhere else. If you don't have it or already have a start or a tremendous knowledge base of this, you're going to get ran over.
Right.
We're very good at this. We have an army of people, very smart people. We have straight killers in our executive team, awesome people. And we're still fighting. And we're well funded.
Right.
So if you're trying to come in now, it's very dangerous.
Yeah. Well, you see the titans of industry across multiple platforms. You see them, eyeing this industry up. So that you have to have the best of the best, the sharpest people. Mm-hmm. You got to be running a tight ship. And one thing I wanted to ask you, when you look at nationally, we have in the alcohol space some national players, and I know in the state by state model it changes a little bit, but who's like the group, the Pepsi, the Bud Light, or is that not
there's some people that think they are, and I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to piss anybody off. No, if you look at just like the public companies that are traded on the CSE, you have Cura's obviously the top right now, the largest market cap, Trulieve, GTI, Cresco. I mean, they just have the largest market caps for publicly traded companies.
Right.
But
if you were to invest in a publicly traded company, if I'm going on my Robinhood app after
I got
this,
friends that would run these companies. I can't. If I pick the wrong one, I can't win that.
All right, we'll do it offline.
I'm gonna get a phone call.
Yeah, there you go. Well, we'll do it offline because I gotta diversify my portfolio. So we'll talk after.
We can talk about investment.
There you go.
I mean, my money's. Do
you take apples?
No.
No. Shit. All right. Fine.
Dollars.
Yeah. Right.
Washington's.
Yeah. Well, appreciate having you on, man, and best of luck with everything. Not that you need it. It seems like you guys. I know.
No, I still need luck, man. It's a war.
It's a war.
It's
right?
a war. Yeah. I mean, it's gonna get wild and more wild.
Yeah, and if I can just make my my comparison to the industry that I know, it feels like you guys are the brand that I want to root for. That's why I wanted to have you on. That's why I want to talk. I like you as a person. You hunt. You're a normal dude. You got a family.
Yeah, most people don't think that. I mean, even some employees that are newer employees are like, I was told they think you're scary. I'm like, the most approachable person in the world just because I don't talk a lot.
Yeah, right.
Doesn't mean I'm not an approachable person.
Yeah.
I just try to keep my head grounded.
Yeah. Well, you're doing a great job, man. And I love the brand. I love the branding. I love the messaging. I love how you're opening it up to a new generation and demographic. And I'm a supporter. So if you can get a route out here to Armada for delivery.
Just set up like a day.
Okay.
You want to Friday? We'll make a special trip.
Okay, perfect. I like that.
Don't expect the 15-minute delivery.
No, that's okay.
Up here. We'll put on a helicopter and send it to you.
That's right. Well, good, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. We'll talk soon.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. You can find Everything Borrowed on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Show your support and drop a 5-star review to help more people find our channel. Don't forget to subscribe. Stay up to date with us on Facebook, Instagram, and everythingborrowedpodcast.com. EBP is produced by Chelsea Cox, Jason Brown, and Vox Adams. Edited and filmed by Nick Ferguson. Art is by Adam Yarborough. Everything Borrowed is an After Hours Media production. Copyright 2021.